Welcome to the place. Yes, I am a Christian. Yes, you're an atheist, but we're not going to debate about God being real or not, because that's very boring and uneventful. Instead, I like to really look at the psychology, the demographics of atheists, and understand atheists better as a whole. So I made a video that has engaged lots of comments that can lead us in several different directions for conversations. The video I'm referring to is Atheists Are More Likely to Commit Suicide Despite Being Free of Religious Dogma. In that video, I Googled, are atheists more likely to commit suicide? And it brought me to this article confirming by an atheist that yes, unfortunately that is the case. And as I read that article, one of the things he pointed out, one of the reasons he gave for atheists being more likely to commit suicide is because culturally that they're isolated. And he said something that I've been saying from the very beginning, that something that atheists are usually willing to admit that Christians are doing right is we know how to do community. We know how to do fellowship. I know that's an old-fashioned word, but we're really good at that. So any struggles that we do have, even for me tonight, I started going to a men's Bible study at my church. It's this concept of accountability, and any doubts that we have, we can talk to somebody about it who's going through that with us. Atheists, not so much. Like, the best version of that is atheists can argue with each other in the comment section on someone's video on YouTube or something of that sort, but there's still this debate involved. But when Christians get together at these meetings at church, it's not that we're arguing, we're actually having conversations and that sort of thing. It's not a debate for us. And apparently there was even a South Park episode about this where the atheists all got together and just argued more than anything. And so it makes sense why, as far as we understand, why are atheists more prone to commit suicide? They do not have the sense of community that Christians easily do. And often atheists feel segregated or ostracized by the mainstream, the Christian crowd. And I can totally understand that. I can see why that's a concern. But something that for me, I keep talking about, and I feel that atheists aren't really willing to continue this conversation. And I think it's a real issue for atheists. And I'm actually trying to help atheists, through all of this, is that, and I keep pointing this out, something that atheists are definitely not good at is being good salesmen. Like, I'm sure that salesmen exist that happen to be atheists, but when it comes to an atheist, they often are quick to want to convert people or deconvert people to becoming atheists. But they're not good at it. They just want to make a debated argument about how God is not real instead of actually addressing that person's issues. And I made a video recently where I talked about the actual biggest struggle in my faith that I have sorting out is we didn't ask to be born, but yet we have to be accountable to make a decision whether we believe in God and whether we choose to follow him or not. That's the biggest hurdle I have. But atheists are not willing to address that. They want to keep it so basic, and that is, you're an idiot, you believe in fairy tales, let me show you how God's not real, kind of thing. That doesn't speak to me on my language or my level, and it's simply a lack of emotional intelligence. Ultimately, if you're the kind of person who's worried about what other people think because you don't agree with them and you're wanting to prove them wrong, that's a lack of emotional intelligence. Someone who is secure in their identity is not trying to prove other people wrong. Someone who's secure in their beliefs is not trying to get confirmation by arguing with other people. And atheists are known for doing this. That's why it's so easy for me. It's a very easy formula. I make sure to put the word atheist in these titles. That's how atheists find me. They're looking for a fight. They're looking for a debate. Ultimately, they're wanting to gain respect by proving somebody wrong. And Emotional Intelligence 101 will tell you that you can never gain a person's respect by proving them wrong. It actually does quite the opposite. Even if you can truly, easily prove somebody to be wrong, you lose the respect in the process of trying to prove them wrong. For someone like me, I do not need confirmation of my belief. Yes, there are parts of my faith that, again, I've already mentioned in this video, I don't fully understand. I may never understand. But ultimately, I'm not looking for confirmation of that. I accept that there's certain things that I'm never going to be able to understand in this life. I accept that. So I'm not trying to prove people wrong in the process and all of that. And I think one of the ways I truly want to be able to help atheists is to say, look, this whole shtick you're doing about implying that Christians are wrong, immoral, and or ignorant, and that they believe in fairy tales and are trying to prove them wrong, that's not getting you anywhere. It's not getting you the results you want. If you really wanted to deconvert a Christian specifically, you would know that that's not what it's about. It's about understanding that we all have struggles. If you really want, you'd have to figure out what their struggle is. You'd have to, but most atheists can't even get the door open because they're so quick to hurl insults. You're ignorant. You're wrong. You're immoral. You believe in fairy tales. All this stuff, and you've lost their attention by that already. So, high conflict personality is ultimately the term here. Atheists tend to be more likely to have a high conflict personality, and I'm gonna share with you this story. I am not a vegan, but for many years I was. I stopped being a vegan about a year ago. So until a year ago, I'd been a vegan for 5.5 years and a vegetarian for 7. And when I became a vegan specifically, I was 32 years old. I was still at the point in my life, the lack of emotional intelligence, the lack of maturity, where I became a vegan and my health problems went away. I lost all this weight. I'm like, why wouldn't anybody be a vegan? This is great. And I had a high conflict personality about being a vegan. And basically, I did the whole thing where I was kind of condescending to people and doing these memes on Facebook, offending people. That's who I was at age 32. But by the time I was 35, I matured and I realized, wait a minute, why do I care? Yes, this works for me, but I don't need to prove them wrong. Who cares? Now, by the time I was 37, I was no longer a vegan or vegetarian, but ultimately I learned something valuable from that, and that was that my approach, if I was trying to get other people to become vegan, was totally disrespectful and missing the point completely. And ultimately, it was part of my identity at that point to make other people believe the same way I do. That I ultimately was not at peace, or I couldn't be happy with myself until I knew that I converted people to how I believed. And so I think in that likeness, I can understand what, in that context, how atheists think. That's why I'm actually trying to help atheists become better at what they do. I know that's very ironic because I'm a Christian and I'm like, hey, you want to know how to become more successful in convincing people as an atheist? But I think that's the thing, that ultimately atheists are not emotionally intelligent. They have a high conflict personality. Don't hear me wrong. Don't think that I just said that atheists have a low IQ. I don't believe that at all. In fact, if anything, I could easily buy into the concept that atheists in general have a higher IQ. I could easily buy into that. But while I do believe that, and while I do believe that every atheist watching this video has a higher IQ than me, I definitely believe that I have a higher EQ, emotional intelligence level, than most atheists watching this video. There are exceptions, and I'm going to keep saying his name. Crazy Jesse is an exception to that, because he understands we can have completely different point of views, but we can find on certain things that we agree on. For example, I am willing to admit that atheists are less likely to be divorced. I think that's interesting. I think that's something that in general atheists are better at than Christians. The numbers show that. I have a whole video explaining why, but I'll give that to the atheists. You're better at that. You're better at staying out of prison than Christians. That's the truth, But are atheists willing to admit too that atheists are more likely to commit suicide? So it's a matter of having these honest conversations and kind of building that bridge. Because what's not interesting is for us to continue to focus on what we don't agree with. Instead, what can we agree on is really the question. That's really the motivation of these videos. And I think ultimately why I easily snag 100 views on every time I make a video and put atheist in the title. People watch it, and most of the people watching it are atheists, because my message, my approach is different than most Christians that you'd be watching a video. And you definitely wouldn't keep watching more of their 11-minute videos. There's something different about my approach. It is my emotional, intelligent approach. I'm secure in my beliefs and my identity. I'm not trying to convert other people. It's not an attack on me if I can't get them to believe like I do. I do not imply that other people are ignorant, immoral, or wrong just because they don't believe like I do. atheists do not have the emotional intelligence that they need to be successful. This is an issue, but I feel, for the fact I have made a whole video about this, what most atheists will hear is, oh, I've just been insulted. He says I'm stupid. Instead of actually looking into what I'm saying, they're going to be more offended. And that's a sign of someone who's not emotionally intelligent. When you get offended by some random guy on the internet, that's a lack of emotional intelligence. When you get disrespected or your feelings are hurt by something some person said, even if they're not a random person on YouTube, but anywhere in life, when you're driving and you perceive that someone's going too fast or too slow, or they cut you off and they honk their horn at you and flip you off, and then you're like, oh yeah, well, and then you honk your horn, and that's a lack of emotional intelligence. It's a matter of not giving other people control over your emotions. And that's where I think atheists have a lot of potential to grow and mature. But if you're offended by that, that's only proving my point. And I'm definitely looking closely right now for all the dislikes I just earned by saying that. Again, every dislike in this video only validates my point. Every angry comment, condescending comment that I'm getting, it's only proving my point. Now, your comments belong right here.